stars. But if the wood was rough, other chickens gave dots. The talented
some could lift big sticks high above their heads, or jump over tall boxes. Still others knew big words, or could sing pretty songs. Everyone gave them stars. Some Wemmicks had stars all over them. Every time they got a star, it made them feel so good. It made them want to do something else and get another star. Others, though, could do little. They got dots. Punchinello was one of these. He tried to jump high like the others, but he always fell. When he fell, the others would gather around him, give him dots. Sometimes when he fell, his wood got scratched, so the people would give him more dots. Then, when he would try to explain why he fell, he would say something silly, and the Wemmicks would give him more dots. After a while, he had so many dots that he didn't want to go outside. He was afraid he would do something dumb, such as forget his hat or step in the water, and then people would give him another dot. In fact, he had so many grey dots that people would come up to him and give him dots for no reason at all. He deserves lots of dots, the people would agree with one another. He's not a good person. After a while, Punchinello believed them. I'm not a good Wemmick, he would say. The few times he went outside, he hung around with other Wemmicks who had lots of dots. He felt better around them. One day, he met a Wemmick who was unlike any he'd ever met. She had no dots or stars. She was just wooden, and her name was Lucia. It wasn't that people didn't try to give her stickers, it's just that the stickers didn't stick. Some of the Wemmicks admired Lucia for having no dots, so they would run up to her and give her a star, but it would fall off. Others would look down on her for having no stars, so they would give her a dot, but it wouldn't stay either. That's the way I want to be, thought Punchinello. I don't want anyone's marks. So he asked the stickerless Wemmick how she did it. It's easy, Lucia replied. Every day I go and see Eli. Eli? Yes, Eli, the wood carver. I sit in the workshop with him. Why? Why don't you find out yourself? Go up the hill. He's there. And with that, the Wemmick who had no stickers turned and skipped away. But will you want to see me? Punchinello cried out. Lucia didn't hear. So Punchinello went home. He sat near a window and watched the wooden people as they scurried around, giving each other stars and dots. It's not right, he muttered to himself, and he decided to go and see Eli. He walked up the narrow path to the top of the hill and stepped into the big shop. His wooden eyes widened at the size of everything. The stool was as tall as he was. He had to stretch on tiptoes to see the top of the workbench. A hammer was as long as his arm. Punchinello swallowed hard. I'm not staying here. And he turned to leave. And then he heard his name. Punchinello. The voice was deep and strong. Punchinello stopped. Punchinello, how good to see you. Come, and let me have a look at you. Punchinello turned slowly and looked at the large bearded craftsman. You know my name? The little Wemmick asked. Of course I do. I made you. Eli stooped down and picked him up and sat him on the bench. The maker spoke thoughtfully as he looked at the grey dots. Looks like you have been given some bad marks. I didn't mean to, Eli. I really tried hard. Oh, you don't have to defend yourself to me, child. I don't care what the other Wemmicks think. You don't? No, and you shouldn't either. Who are they to give stars or dots? They're Wemmicks, just like you. What they think doesn't matter. All that matters is what I think. And I think you are pretty special. Punchinello laughed. Me? Special? Why? I can't walk fast. I can't jump. My paint is peeling. What do I matter to you? Eli looked at Punchinello, put his hands on those small wooden shoulders, and spoke very slowly. Because you're mine. That's why you matter to me. Punchinello had never had anyone look at him like this, much less his maker. He didn't know what to say. Every day I've been hoping you'd come, Eli explained. I came because I met someone who had no marks, said Punchinello. I know. She told me about you. Why don't the stickers stay on her? The maker spoke softly. Because she's decided that what I think is more important than what they think. The stickers only stick if you let them. What? The stickers only stick if they matter to you. The more you trust my love, the less you care about their stickers. I'm not sure I understand. Eli smiled. You will, but it will take time. You've got a lot of marks. For now, just come to see me every day, and let me remind you how much I care. Eli lifted Punchinello off the bench and set him on the ground. Remember, Eli said as the Wemmick walked out of the door, you are special because I made you, and I don't make mistakes. Punchinello didn't stop, but in his heart he thought, I think he really means it. When he did, a dot fell to the ground.
What do you think? I personally think this is very powerful. But I would like to hear what is there anything that touched a special chord in you for you, or anything that's for your learning? Yes.
It reminded me of like the story of like the Desert Fathers, of where they like instruct their disciples to be like the people in the graves where nothing, no compliments and no like
No praise, no condemnation would impact.
that we like nothing from men should change how you kind of like feel. You depend.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Good. Good. What else?
That's more on how God is the project, how, not how people deal with it.
Yes, how God thinks about us, not how people think about it. Very good. Other concepts that you saw in this short clip? Yes.
Like the reason why book with thoughts and stories, they're all personal, based on their personal preference on their judgment. There's no rhyme or reason to it, and that's similar, or like you say, some people judge you or praise you based on what they see.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So people are, what are they doing all the time, all day? Dots and stickers. And this is equal to judgment. We keep on judging one another. Is this only to them or we do the same? We do the same. Why do people, when do we give other people stars? Exactly, performance, achievements, and we give dots for lack of. So we judge one another based on achievements. And adolescents, what are they judged based on? As exactly as you mentioned, the grades, the school, the what they did, what they did not do. Yes. What else?
I think I just noticed that, like, in the video, sort of puppet. So the main character, he was functional, yeah, he was trying hard and everything, but like as time went by and he let the dog stick, he stopped trying, like he cared so much about what people think and let it stick and define him to the point where it's dangerous and he stopped trying to actually like
Yes.
just put yourself down.
Yes, he's getting a lot of judgment, negative judgment, and this made him isolate himself. And when people saw him in the hard times when he had lots of dogs, what did they do? They put more dogs. So isolation and more dots, more criticism. Sometimes we think when isolation would solve the problem, but actually it increases the problem. What else? Very good. Thank you. Any punchlines that stuck with you?
You're special today.
Thank you very much. You are special because I made you. When did he hear this? From the people? From the, I have one. It's okay. From the maker, from Eli. Eli represents God. He only heard this from God. So what does this tell us? We will only hear those good things from God. Very nice. What else? Other punchlines?
Without always because everybody.
Yes, the dots or the stars stick when you believe in them. Yes, very good. What else? What else? What else? Punchlines. Sorry.
That's very good. You are mine.
You are mine. What's so special about this?
It just reminds us that like at the end of the day, we belong to God. And no matter how much like, anyone cares, ultimately where is and he like knows what's best for us and he cares for us the most.
Very good. We belong to God. All of these are messages that identify what kind of belief system. What was his previous belief system? What did he believe in before meeting Eli?
Dots and stars.
Dots and stars, which equals to performance. Pleasing people. Looking to please people leads to dots and stars. Being marked with what people say about us. Right? What else?
I don't have a punchline.
You don't have a punchline?
No, but I have
Oh, okay, sure, yes.
the puppet found comfort in the creator was no comfort.
Yes, he found, how did he come to the creator?
Well, sure.
You missed this part. Of course, he walked, but what made him go to there? What was his belief about the creator?
From what I heard. Another puppet.
From?
Another puppet.
From another puppet. Yes, What exactly this? So this is what another puppet led him. How? What was so special about that other puppet? Yes. Why? Why did the stickers never stick on her?
Because she didn't believe that she doesn't care about what other people think about.
Yes.
That's
She doesn't care about what other people say. And this made whatever they say, it's not gonna stick. If I'm focused with what people say, that's gonna hurt me. But if I don't focus on what people say, that's not going to impact me. Of course, it requires practice. Easier said than done. Yes. But it requires practice. Very good. What was his belief system about Eli, the creator? Was he afraid of him, or was he motivated to go and see him? He was afraid until I forgot her name. The other character, forgot her name, until she told him, you know, how come no stickers stick on you? No star, nor dots. And what did she say? Go see Eli. So who does she represent? Us. So this is our main role. Our main role is not to really preach a lot, but to do one thing, model and point to Eli. What makes you who you are? Because I meet with Eli on a regular basis. Maybe you should go and meet him as well. So he was afraid. Is this huge, big person or creator? He has big hammers, big tools. You know, when we believe those who walk with God will be tempted a lot, right? Same thing. We're afraid of walking with God because if we walk with God, you know, God has certain things or methods that he uses, and we are afraid until we see someone who is not afraid. And when he went, he was surprised that Eli knew him. You know my name, right? He was defending himself because he was full of doubts. And what did Eli say? You do not need to defend yourself. Just come to me as you are, because you are mine, because I made you, because you are special. Stickers stick only when you believe in them. People words would stick and hurt only if we believe in them. And the minute he started to really believe in what Eli says, what started to happen? The first dot started to fall. So it means that it is still more dots. It means that it is a process. It's a process of really becoming the child of God. I am a child of God, but to believe in it and to live according, it is a process. And this is basically what builds, like the belief system is what impacts our self-esteem. So let's talk a little bit about self-esteem because it's such a very important aspect for adolescents at this stage, because they are in a stage of forming their own identity and their own self-esteem as well. So what is the story of self-esteem? What's happening there? So adolescents gather information to help them evaluate themselves, right? Evaluate themselves, which is basically similar to what we saw. We evaluate. We're always in the process of evaluation, and I evaluate myself. Am I intelligent? Am I competent? Am I attractive? And compare themselves with their ideals and those of others. This is how adolescents build their own self-esteem. And this tells you our interaction and any interaction with adolescents impacts them because they are very fragile and sensitive. They are in this phase of developing answers to those questions. Am I smart? Am I intelligent? Basically, do I receive some compliments from people or criticism from people around? Let's differentiate between self-image and self-esteem. Self-image or self-concept is how I describe myself. I'm smart, I'm intelligent, attractive, I'm good at this, I'm a science whiz, I'm a math whiz. So how I describe myself, this is my self-image. And based on this description, I give a value to myself. Could they be in sync or out of sync? Yes. Sometimes I see myself, yes, I'm smart at math, but I'm a failure at science, at history, at this. So I say I'm smart and then I'm a failure. I'm good and I'm a failure. So these are some kind of contradictions, which makes me evaluate myself as maybe not as good enough, right? Versus being able, yes, you know what, math is my forte. I'm good at math, but not my area, but I'm good at. So I'm not good at science, but I am good at math. I'm not good at math, but I am good at. So being able to value themselves. So this is the difference between self-image or self-concepts and self-esteem. Indicators of low self-esteem. How can we see signs in adolescence about self-esteem? Whether a person believes that their success or failure is locus of control. How do I attribute success that I achieve? Is it due to my own action and internal abilities, or it's just luck, something external, right? Which leads to low self-esteem, external or internal. If it's everything by luck, so I am not good enough, I attribute every success to just situation, circumstances, and that's not healthy. Of course, let's differentiate between self-esteem and pride. Self-esteem and pride. I, of course, as a Christian Coptic Orthodox community, we are either take the pride so high or so low, but we need a balance. We need a balance. No, I'm bad, I suck, and maybe inside of me, but I'm the best. I just say just bad things about myself so people would commend me, would say good things about me. So we are always confused about this. But what helps us to have a balanced self-esteem based on the movie that we saw, I am God's creation. I am a child of God. I am special because I am special to God. So regardless of my performance, I am special to God. And this is where I get my self-esteem. Because today I know how to do certain things, tomorrow I don't know how to do them. Today I don't know how to do them, tomorrow I know how to do them. So it's something that fluctuates. So it's not a good basis. So locus of control, when someone says, you did a good job. Yes, thank God. I'm thankful to God. You did a bad job. I'm learning. It's okay. I'm learning, which is okay. So accepting compliments as well as some criticism. Hopefully we are not harsh, but I've talked about me being able to accept it. How do I guide people to realize and believe, to have their belief system fixed or properly that they are children of God? Self-efficacy, confidence to make difference in a situation. It's one's belief whether they can make a difference or not in the situation. Adolescents with low self-esteem would likely exhibit helplessness and powerlessness. You know what? My presence is not gonna make a huge difference. So it's okay. It's okay not to be present. You know what? I'm just a one person in this big group. It doesn't really matter. So I'm really discounting my value because even my presence is valuable. Defensiveness, which is exhibiting high sensitivity almost to everything and protect themselves by building barriers or apathy or easily upset. So if they get so easily agitated or triggered or they shy away, silent, not saying anything, this is when you really wonder what's really happening inside. Other is being shy, withdrawn, inhibited, anxious, avoidance of competitive situation. Let's do this. No, not me. And I'm not saying this as a one time. I'm saying this as a pattern. No, not me. And I shy away from really participating with others as well. Causes of low self-esteem. Perfectionistic expectation. And where do we get this from? Our parents, our lovely parents. They are doing their best. But sometimes this help, sometimes we internalize it in a certain way that, you know what, you have to be this, you need to do this. And of course, this internalized into adolescents that if they don't do this, then they are failures. They're not good enough. So overly high expectations and permit no errors, being frustrated, critical, and impatient. Children learn that they can never satisfy their parents. They believe that they are not good enough and are inadequate. Or being overprotective. So parents want to push us when we are inside the house. You have to excel this at this at this. And you have to have organized room, and you have to have only good friends, and then when you go outside, no, this friend, no, this outing, no, all outings, all things, basically not being able to make our own mistakes. Of course, I'm not talking about fatal mistakes. Talk about regular mistakes. So children who are always protected from their mistakes or from making mistakes. And sometimes parents who do this, they never attribute any negative or take or able to admit that my child made a mistake, because my child cannot make a mistake. And who becomes the victim? The adolescents. So no opportunity to trust their judgment, difficulty achieving independence, no sense of confidence, efficacy, or locus of control. So those are reasons why adolescents could develop low self-esteem. Inconsistency. Clear boundaries provide security for and predictability. Clear boundaries eliminate confusion about what is within my locus of control and what is not. Inconsistency leads to insecurity and low self-esteem. And inconsistency meaning in the way parents deal with them or the way they perceive their things around them. So you know how when one time they make a good effort and then they are cheered, and then another time they make effort and no, this is not good enough. So is it good enough or not good enough? So what do I do? What is good and what is bad? And that's why having boundary meaning clarity, meaning boundaries are given not by chance but by design. Not by chance, by design. Meaning, you know what? You are doing great. You also need to focus on your studies. If you finish 1, 2, 3, you get X, Y, Z. If you don't finish 1, 2, 3, you get LMN, whatever. So there is predictability. But inconsistency meaning, let me see if you're gonna do good or not. So what is the definition of good? What is the definition of satisfying you? So if this is inconsistent, this could lead to internal confusion for adolescents. Faulty thinking. So this is sometimes the adolescents, they could develop faulty thinking, or they have learned this, all or nothing. meaning you get either perfect or you're not good enough. Should and must, you have to, you should not do this, and you should. So if my mind revolves around shoulds and should not, this becomes faulty thinking, disqualifying the positive, meaning I do 10 mistakes, but I do something good. Which would we focus on? The 10 mistakes, of course. There is one good thing. And this is usually a challenge for a lot of parents. Is a lot of parents complain about their adolescents. They are problematic with this. They have a problem with this. They have a problem with this. So what is good in their life? If everything is problem, so what is good in life? Oh yeah, they are good at school. Oh yeah, they're good at school. Well, do they hear compliments that they are good at school? They are good at that. Do they hear compliments that they are good at any aspect? Maybe they are not the greatest in their school, but they help around the house. Do they hear compliments that they are good helpers in the house? So disqualifying the positive is another faulty thinking. Mental filters, magnifications, and personalization. All of these kind of systems of thinking that are not healthy and leads to exclusions. Okay. Faulty theology. What have they been taught about pride versus humility? We just talked about this. Biblical humility is based on self-love as a child of God and not self-rejection. I am a child of God. If I make a mistake, does this disqualify me from being a child of God? No, but I need to repent. Biblical pride, taking God's glory to oneself. This is the biblical pride. Humility is, if anyone does everything that is good, yes, I'm a servant of God. God has given me the ability. God is the reason. God gave me abilities and I put my ability into practice. I practice, I use the ability that God gave. Helping adolescents with low self-esteem. We need to do an assessment. How do I observe their action? Are they withdrawn? Are they sensitive? Are they defensive? How are they with their friends? How do they interact with their friends? Not just in one context, but in multiple contexts, in multiple situations. How do parents talk about their children, about them? How do they talk about themselves? So all of these are aspects that maybe we can use. You remember the question cube that we talked about last week? So I can ask, so what do your friends say about you? What do your parents say about you? How do you think about yourself? So the subject and the question, how do we use the questions to ask about these aspects, to be able to really understand before we jump into helping, which is the assessment. And of course, assessment does not mean we're going to know all the information from one time. Does not mean we become interrogators and investigators, but just through the pattern of discussion, what are key words, what are key statements they say about themselves. I really encourage you to go back and watch this video, or maybe the longer version, You Are Special, on YouTube, and try to listen to triggering sentences or sentences that indicate self-esteem. How do I talk about myself? How do people see one another? How do people see Punchinello? How does Punchinello see himself? Lucia, the other girl, how does she deal with all of this? What are the belief systems that exist for the different characters over there? Observe their action, sensitive or context and severity. Well, we need to check different contexts, like with their friends. Are they good at sport? Are they good social people? How do they behave themselves? Academic aspects. Body image, how do they perceive their own bodies? Are they happy with their own bodies or they are not happy with their own bodies? And why? And what led to this? And some background. Pervasiveness, approaching new situation, meaning how, whenever they are facing a new situation, how do they handle themselves? Is it very intense? Is it something that they can manage? Are they able to manage their emotions? Do they have some talents, some skills to practice facing new situation or always avoiding new experiences? Identify faulty concept to be able to deal with it, right? You cannot build on unstable grounds. Explore with them and help them identify faulty thinking, unrealistic standards, faulty theology. If you hear them, you know what? If I do this, God is not going to accept me. Many times I have disappointed God. What is the understanding here? As if by action, God is, actually, I was just recently hearing a quote, I think it was for St. Anthony, that God's idea about us does not change by day by our actions. I cannot. God's approach to us is love. God's love. Nevertheless, of course, what I do, it depends. What I do, it either puts me within the boundaries of God's love or takes me away the boundaries of God's love. It's not God who changes his ideas about me. God always loves me. He calls all to come. Whoever comes to me, I will not cast out. So what does this mean? God is open and he wants people to come. If I come to God, I will experience the safety, the security. If I walk away, I will be walking away from someone who provides me with safety and security. So what kind of sentences, what kind of thoughts do they have? And this, it could either come through a question or could come through what kind of sentences they say. Do they believe that they belong to Christ? Do they believe that they are special to God? Or I'm not special to anyone? Or I'm just special to one person or to nobody? Are they able to have realistic understanding or assessment for their own potential? Meaning it's nothing wrong with saying I'm good at this subject, but I'm not good at that. I'm good in this setting, but I'm not good at that setting. I'm good at this sport, but this is not my area of strength at that sport. That's okay. It's an assessment to be able to say, this is a situation that I would like to go into that situation. Some people are more kind of, they like challenges, meaning this is an area that I think I need to develop. So you know what? I'm gonna go more into that sport. I'm gonna learn more. I'm gonna get a coach. I'm going to learn more and more and more because I really like challenge. I really like to develop this area in my competence. Everyone is different, so I have to understand how they approach different situations and what do they expect from themselves. So basically, I know what are the reasons for low self-esteem. So I try to, when they speak, I try to kind of figure out or pick up on sentences that highlight what is happening here or there. And then when I am with the person, again, I am like Lucia. I am trying to point the person, I'm trying to give unconditional acceptance and no judgment, and point to Eli, point the person to God. They are very sensitive to people who are not genuine. So we need to be accepting, supporting, gently encouraging, mild but sincere. And some people are more sensitive than others. So we should not rush into really motivating. You can do this, you have to do this, you can make it. And we become cheerleaders excessively. Sometimes they do not want this. Sometimes they know what they need to do. They just need someone to accept them first as they are. And then the next step would be, so what do you want to do? What are you willing to do? What are you motivated to do? And then I can support them in the area that they are open to doing, and this is being genuine, not just giving them everything that I know, so that they need to push themselves وخلاص. So avoid false exaggerated encouragement. Teach problem solving. Maybe instead of solving the problem, I need to teach them problem solving. And sometimes questions are good ways to teach. What do you think? How could this be solved? What are your ideas? What have you thought about? What kind of solutions have you tried? I tried this, but it did not work. I tried this, but it did not work. I tried that, but that's amazing. So you really have been trying so hard. Good job. Anything else that you have tried or that you can do? How about this? How about this? You know, this I can point them to a beginning step and let them see how they can make the second steps. So this is a very nice strategy for problem solving. Recognize the problem exists. Do they see that there is a problem? Maybe they do not see that there is a problem. So I can maybe help them to see, well, is this helping you progress in life? Is this helping you? You want to engage socially, but you're shying away, staying home, helping you. So maybe this is an issue that we need to talk about. Stop and think, kind of, when there is a problem, let us think together first, and then decide on a goal. Generate possible solutions together. Consider consequences. With each solution, what will be the consequence, which is analyzing every solution. Choose a solution out of the brainstorming here and implement. Let's give this a try and see how does this work. Self-talk statements. These are pre-recorded statements that run in our minds. We all have them, right? When we face a situation, what do I say to myself? Do I encourage myself or do I put myself down? Maybe I can start to identify those and maybe help the person to have a set of more helpful and healthy self-statement so that we can really build our self-esteem or face our challenges. Identify self-statement in different scenarios. So when you are in social setting, what do you say to yourself about yourself? What do you say to yourself about the people that you're going to be meeting? When you play this sport, what do you say about the other players? What's in your mind about the coach? Oh, the coach really is not giving me a fair chance. My friends, my colleagues are not giving me a fair chance. So I end up really not doing my best in the sport. So we address things together. Catch negative ones and see if they could be replaced with more helpful ones. I know I just ran quickly, and this is to consider our time. Any questions? Any questions? Any feedback? Any thoughts? Yes.
Some question, some folks like just more reserved than others. Yes, introvert, extrovert,
Yeah.
So how can we assess them without holding that against?
Okay, you just made an assessment without holding
Like we're trying to get them, participate, instead of they're withdrawn, but what if they're not withdrawn, they're just quiet? That's happening, right? Is there a line where we as like taking care of counseling, how do we differentiate? This is a serious issue versus this is.
Yes, there is a difference between individual setting and a group setting, right? So in a group setting, I have to be sensitive that some people are more extrovert, some are introvert. So, and it shows in a group setting who's extrovert, who's introvert. And if I really want to engage other people to know, I would go to a specific person says, what do you think about this? So I'll get to kind of poke them gently and get something like that. What do you think? And what do you think? So you know what? We're gonna go around every table and get each one so we can. So in a group setting, this is one setting, and in a personal setting, one-on-one setting is also so. Thank you. Any other questions, thoughts? All right, you seem to be ready for the role play. All right, so right now we're spending the coming maybe 20 minutes. Each one, each person will be on. Yeah. So each one is going to have 3 sheets like this. Okay, why 3 sheets? Because we're gonna split into groups of 3. Okay, كل 3 بس ما حد يعني مش عايز اقول حاجه في المايك. ايه ده؟ كلنا 3 جروب؟ No. This is personal. This is this is individual. Okay. So this is the one to overcome the extrovert introvert thing. Okay. So we're going to get into groups of 3s and virtually the same thing. If we can set rooms, or if people, how many are 1, 2, 3? 2.
I don't know, Abuna.
Pardon me? There's only 2. 2. So we can work with 2. We can work with 2, but you're gonna have to have 2 roles. I'm not sure if I can send you a copy right now or not, but let's listen to the instructions. So we're gonna get into groups of 3. Can we do this right now? Yeah. Per person. Per person.
I actually might have to because we're doing some group thing and online is only.
Hmm? 24. Okay. I made 60. So hopefully لا مش هيكفي. ايه ده؟ بص can you let me go to the point this. And خليك عشان تسمع الانستراكشنز. So can we get into groups of 3 right now? I want groups of 3s عشان نشوف الدنيا تمشي ازاي. Now. انتوا 4.
خليهم كاونت 1 2 3.
لما 2 ممكن بس 3 مش هينفع. So ideally we have to we'll have groups of 2 only if it is a must. But ideally we have to have group of 3. ايه ده؟ انا شايف انك انت تيجي معايا تسيب التراويح. انت 1 2 انتوا 3 كده 1 2 3 ادي 3 عايزين حد ثالث معاك ولا انا بقول ده اي حاجه ثلاثه انا بقول انتوا 3 yeah and we're going to take turns. Can you focus with me? It's simple, but could be challenging for me to describe. So we're going to take turns. Every group of 3, each one time you will be a helper, one time you will be observer, one time you will be a youth. Okay? So that's why 3. Helper, youth, and observer. Okay? So let's take this group. Let's say you are going to be the helper. You're going to be a helper. You're going to be the youth. You're going to be the observer. Okay? So helper, you're going to choose a scenario. These are the scenarios at the top. Youth case topic options. Youth having relationship problems with a friend, with a parent, with a teacher, emotional relationship, youth confused about making choice of university program, school subject selection, youth struggling with addiction, a topic of your choice. So if you don't like any of those, choose a topic of your choice, okay? So you're going to do this. Irene, as a helper, will try to talk to you. Not a helper does not mean that you're going to solve the problem, but you're going to build a lines, the skills at the bottom. Do attending skills. You remember the solar? Yes, so as a helper, you're going to practice doing the solar. And the observer will give you grades. Okay? As well as the youth will give you assessment. And you will assess yourself. So how do you think you made? How did you do with the alliance? How did you do with the attending? How did you do with active listening? How did you do with empathy? How did you do with questions? And then if there is any constructive comment to the helper from the observer. You know what, you did great with this. Maybe the solar, something that you were too much anxious and you were not doing good eye contact. So to give you some feedback, okay?
Then we're doing three assessments, like
Yeah.
per person.
Per person, free assessment.
Like for all, so.
Yes, yes,
After that, we will switch, like I will be the youth.
exactly. After this, you will switch and a third switch. So you get to be, you assess one another in these three patterns. Make sense? Confusing? Three assessments.
Because there's three here.
You are assessing yourself. If you are the helper, you give yourself a grade. The observer will give you a grade. The youth will give you a grade. The example, you remember the video that we saw last week? Last week, when there was a helper sitting with a guy, with a person trying, they did not solve the problem. They focused on empathy, active listening, paraphrasing, solar being matching the person. Okay, so you might need to step away from the table to take a corner so that you can sit square, or it's up to you how you want to do it, and also leave space for other people so that you do not, the conversation do not mix with one another. Yeah. Yes, so finish your part as your first. But so hopefully you get a chance. It's 5 minutes. Each role play should not exceed 3 to 5 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes each role play. Okay, any questions? Yes. Yes. Any questions? We're okay? Too late. He's waiting, but always for the help.
We will work on is the following. We're gonna do a case study on depression and the defense mechanisms, basically depression. And then we will move on to speak about the anxious client and suicide management. So let's get right into what we are doing here, which is depression. Okay. Can you all hear me well? I don't need a microphone. You're okay? People at the back, can you hear me? Not so. Can we find a microphone, please? Yes. Can you find a microphone, somebody? Maybe if we're so quiet, maybe you can hear me better. I'm not sure if it's, there usually is a microphone. Not sure. Yeah, see if he's unplug on the bottom, then we can plug it, so this will. See, this is the one. It's all the way there. Unplug it. No, that was something. Yes. Can you hear me?
Well, yeah, it works. With the phones working.
Technical issue, but for some reason it's not connecting to the internet. So it'll take maybe another minute or so. There, are you connected to the internet? Through what? CCC. One.
This one is
See it.
Trinity Hall.
Huh?
This one is under Trinity Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, press on the other numbers. See what? Yeah. I shared it with you.
Thank you.
Okay, so today we're gonna take some emotional issues. The most common ones that you will encounter when working with adolescents include things like sadness, depression, anxiety, loneliness, suicidal ideation. That's really what we're hoping to cover together today. So let's just watch this uh, quick, simple university. I think is a university guy behind this who put together something about depression. Take some notes and then we'll discuss. There's no So, as you can note, depression is a complicated mental health issue where it causes aren't there are no clear indication as to whether the cause is a chemical imbalance only, or is it developmental, or is it a combination of both? And when do you know you are depressed? You know, like when do people usually know? Is when they get diagnosed. So the diagnosis of depression, I'm telling you, if you go to your family doctor and you tell your family doctor, I'm just feeling down and I'm not feeling very well these days. And family doctors, generally speaking, are very quick to write you an antidepressant and give it to you and say, you know, and they usually start you with something simple, not too complicated, and not necessarily do a proper assessment. You know, there are assessments like the Beck's depression, the PHQ-9. There are certain form of assessments that if you were to go, let's say, to a psychiatrist, they actually do that for you. And they'll actually, and some family doctors will do that. I'm just saying, generally speaking, it is so easy to say, hey, why don't you try, Zoloft, or why don't you try, they write you a prescription and they say, let's try this for 3 months and see how things are and all that. But my point here is, when does a person really know whether they're just sad or down or they're depressed? So we want to talk a little bit about, this matter when it comes to adolescents, not the adult population, adolescents. So some depression in adolescence is normal. The blues, whether it be related to their hormones, and their cycles, for the cycle for women, or just an imbalance or a change in hormone, that could be the case, or it could be just the blues. They feel like they don't have status amongst their friends, or they're not as popular as someone else, or they're not getting the attention they need that their friends are getting, or they're not doing well in school, or their social lives are not the greatest, or the negative thinking that is in their head is impacting them. So sometimes you actually hear a lot of young people saying, I feel down today, I feel sad today. But depression can become debilitating. So it can begin to impact your day-to-day life. Then we're moving more towards a formal definition of depression. So, for example, it could go from someone who is facially sad to someone who has lost interest in school, and is not performing according to the requirements in school. And they are also dipping in their church activities or the leisure time activities or their hobbies that they used to like. They're disengaging from that. They could be easily agitated and irritated because they're going through internal turmoil. They're actually not happy from within, and that is causing them to be agitated on the outside. Also, depression as debilitating is one where a person begins to feel a strong sense of inferiority. I'm less than others, I'm unfortunate, feelings of worthlessness. And also, I can't help myself. Like, no matter what I try to do, I'm not able to get out of this mood. So, sense of helplessness and at times hopelessness. Sense of strong, ineffective guilt. Because guilt can be effective. If guilt helps you to grow and helps you to be motivated, although it's not the greatest motivator, but it helps you to move into the next practical steps you need to do in order to correct whatever is going in your life, that it's effective. But some people experience ineffective guilt, which is close to shame, in the sense that no matter what I do, it doesn't matter. I feel guilty and I'm gonna always feel guilty. That type of feelings is associated with debilitating depression. Also, someone who is actually experiencing a depression that would meet the diagnosis of depression may feel insomniac. So they're not able to go to bed, or hypersomnic, which means they are sleeping more. So either not sleeping well or sleeping more. Loss of appetite or excessive eating. It's one or the other. Again, they're extremes because of the swings, the mood swings. And also social withdrawal. Not wanting to be with people, whereas you were okay with people before. We're looking at sudden changes. And there are various types of depression. There is a type known as endogenous depression. And this is where you see a biochemical disturbance in the hormonal system, where the nervous system is even, there's an impact on the nervous system, or maybe even from an infection in the body. Something that causes a disturbance within the brain and within the chemicals of the brain. And we know the chemicals of the brain, like dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine. These are the chemicals in the brain. And what we see in endogenous depression, we see a spontaneous rise in the manifestation of the depression, and usually is found in the elderly or in psychotic disorders. And it does require medical intervention. So someone with endogenous depression, they can be helped if you talk to them, but I'm going to tell you this, no matter how well you talk to them, they're not going to really feel the impact of your health unless they begin some sort of medication. You have another one called exogenous or reactive depression, and these are times of and periods, could be prolonged periods of feeling down because you are reacting to, hence the word reactive depression, to a real imagined or threatened type of loss. So it lasts longer than a few months and typically found in adolescents. And counseling here, which we call talk therapy, is actually the usual treatments. Because the way the adolescent is thinking has caused them to feel like they've lost something. Lost status, lost friends, lost popularity, whatever the loss that they are actually going through, or imagining going through, or feel that they're threatened to lose. So this is where counseling works really well. And then you have neurotic depression, which is a lifestyle response to stress and anxiety. Why we keep saying, do not underestimate stress. Do not underestimate anxiety, because when it's prolonged, it will hurt you. So this is where a person begins to escape from other emotions, and they develops over a long period of time. So it's chronic, and then they enter into depression over time. So we always say never underestimate depression, stress or anxiety. If you are under stress and you have no way of rejuvenating yourself, if you have no way of doing self-care, it will hit you. It's just not going to hit you now. It will come later on at a different point in your life. So reactive exogenous depression is the main form that we handle or treat during adolescent depression, adolescent time of depression. So various causes. Sometimes it's not an obvious cause. Maybe sometimes in some work they find some genetic causes or predisposition to depression. It says, you know what, so-and-so is predisposed to depression. They don't have to be depressed, but they have a risk of depression. And then they find that there's some biological basis to that. Other causes, life experiences. While life experiences do not have to lead to depression, that's very important. It is not the event itself that leads to depression. So then what? So if a loss of a loved one, I'm telling you, does not lead to depression, then what does? In that example, loss of a loved one, then what leads to depression? If it's not the loss itself.
Maybe like person not being able to actually deal with it, or
Yeah, so it's something about that person not being able to deal with it. Why?
Maybe the self-talk or what he needs to be over.
Okay, so it has to do with the self-talk. What is the self-talk? So when I'm talking to myself negatively about the loss of someone I love, for example, or a loss of a job, or so on, what is going on? That's, you have two people, so I'm giving you an example here. You have two people, they're both twins, born of the same family, and they both lost their job. One gets depressed, the other one doesn't. Why? If it's the actual loss of the job, then both of them should have been what? Depressed. Why one gets depressed? What's the factor? What is the element?
The way they got lost, like some people use it as a motivator, others see it as like actually recovery.
Right. So on the surface is the way you perceive the event. So there's something called the ABCDEF model of depression. I'm just going to take the first part of it, ABC, and then let's stop at that. A is the activating event of depression. Give me an example of an activating event of depression. Losing a job, okay? The C, so we'll skip the B. The C is the consequence. The consequence is I feel down, and I'm not eating well, I'm not sleeping well, I'm withdrawing from my friends. So that's the consequence, the depression, the C. Is the A causing the C? No, the research shows A is not causing the C. What's causing the C is the B. The B is the belief. Okay? What do I believe about myself when the activating event happens or happened? So what do I believe about myself now that I lost a job? That belief is what's causing me to be depressed. Can you give me some beliefs that if a person has once they leave, that once they lose their job, can lead to depression? I'm a failure. So I'm not going to be able to get another job. I'm a stupid person. That's why I keep losing my jobs.
Worried about like what might follow after, like not being able to support the family or
So what's the belief? You're right, but what's the belief?
like not good.
I'm not viable. I'm not viable. I will not be able, I'm not going to support my family. I believe that I cannot and will not support my family. There are difference between thoughts and beliefs. Thoughts are, you know what, I don't think, for example, I'm thinking negatively, I'm actually going to not be able to pay my mortgage. That's a thought, right? Well, what's a belief?
So a thought would be a dialogue between me and myself.
A whole bunch of thoughts, bunch of dialogues.
The conclusion would be
The meaning making of all these thoughts is a deep-seated belief. I actually believe I am a failure. I actually believe that I will never mount to anything good. And those are much deeper. So the ABC says that the activating event does not cause the consequence. The consequence is caused by the lens of belief that I have, that I use when I look at the activating event. So life experiences, while life experiences do not have to lead to depression, they increase the probability of its occurrence. Powerlessness, another cause. An adolescent who experiences anger in a situation over which they have no control. So here's where you get the perfectionist pressure. I should have been able to do this, and that. What we call the unhealthy shoulds. What's the difference between a healthy should and an unhealthy should? Give me an example. You can answer by giving an example. هو النهارده ما جابولكمش كوفي ولا أي حاجة؟ إيه اللي حصل ده؟ كل اللي جالي تكست من أيمن يقول لي محدش جاب كوفي النهارده. ده كلام؟ ده أنا هقع من طولي مفيش كوفي. there's no coffee. Okay, yes.
Yes, but maybe like should have are the words are it drive you to like hate yourself more or like you feel like I should have done this, I should have done that. But like the good shoulds you feel like I should do this, I should do that.
So let me give you an example, and you tell me if it's a healthy should or unhealthy should based on what you just said. You have an exam next week, and you slacked off, did not study, went at the exam and failed. Should you have studied? Yeah? No, you actually slacked off. You studied, but not really. Should you have studied better? That's a healthy should. خليكي confident كده you're right, you're 100% good. So now you are a pharmacist or a physician or you're this and that, and you're riding a bike, and you're enjoying the bike with your friends, and you're riding, and the bike breaks, and you beat yourself up because you did not learn online how to fix a bike. I should have learned how to fix a bike. That's a healthy should or unhealthy should? Unhealthy. Tell that to a perfectionist. Perfectionists would say, well, of course I had the time. I could have used my time better to watch the YouTube on fixing bikes. And how come I did not do it? Right? That's an unhealthy should. Why? You should have, I think. I'm a perfectionist. You should have. Why? Why is it unhealthy should?
It's not a norm, it's not within your expectation.
It's not within your normal day-to-day expectation. It's like it's like you cannot be everything, right? So again, there this powerlessness where an adolescent experienced anger towards self because they could have control, they must have control, and they did not have control. And they feel unable to express this anger, and then they may become depressed. Negativity, negative thinking. This, by the way, we even as adults have to be very careful with. Like adults are not exempt at all, actually, not at all. But a lot of adolescents have these negative self-talks in their heads, and sometimes it's hard to break out of that cycle. So depression has a cognitive triad, cognitive in the head triad. Negative thoughts of self, negative thoughts of experience, negative thoughts of future. So when that triad exists, the risk of depression is very high. The way you think of yourself is negative. The way you think of the situation is negative. The way you think of the future is negative. And it's quite common that you will find someone and people in general into that depression or cognitive negative triad. There's also something called, when we speak about negative thoughts, there's something called automatic thoughts. They call them negative automatic thoughts or automatic negative thoughts. I like that title better because it's an acronym called ANTS. ANTS, ANTS. Automatic means you don't even have a second to think about. You could, but you usually don't. They just jump at you, these thoughts in your head. And they're negative because they're speaking negatively, and it's a thought, it's in the cognition. So they are unreasonable and dysfunctional thoughts. They seem completely plausible, and you accept them without criticizing them or be critical of them, and they are involuntary. They happen so quickly. So let's look at some of these. And I want you to define, to say, this happened to me. Okay, so I'm asking you to be vulnerable here. There is a list. Look at the list. And then tell me when maybe you've experienced at least one of those, and give me an example. God bless you. Overgeneralization or overgeneralizing. Give me an example.
Everyone is, that's one thing.
Yeah, everyone is exceptional, and everyone's a great Christian, not me. Okay. Good start. Yes. Discounting. So let's say you do such a good job in the evaluation of this course, and people tell you, you did well, but in your head you say, what's the big deal? It's not even a course in university. Like, who cares? I wish I did that in university. So you discount even your successes, and you find good, reasonable thoughts to discount them. Fortune telling, what's that?
Say, oh, well, I'm not even gonna present this anyways because they're gonna tell me that it's gonna suck anyway.
Yeah, I'm not gonna present in this. There's no point. Life is so gloomy because you know what? I'm not gonna amount to anything in the future anyways. I know I'm not gonna get the job. I'm not gonna get that's fortune telling. Like you can tell what's gonna happen in the future, but in a negative way. What else? Yeah.
Like thinking, like
In a negative way.
Yeah.
So we put it in a negative way in this case. So can you give me an example of some mind reading that we do that can lead to depression?
like, oh, I feel like she hates me, or like
Right.
based on like I don't know.
Yeah, all the people in this room, they speak bad about me. Or all people in this room, they don't like me. And in their minds, they really say bad stuff about me. Could happen even at home. An adolescent will say, my parents, they always speak bad about me. Have you heard them say anything bad? Yeah, what did they say? I don't remember. So that's another example. What else? Yeah. That's a very common one. Probably that's why we have it in the first. All or nothing thinking. Give me an example.
Like, if mom, I have to have the house every day, I have to have the head seafood every day, I have chicken everywhere, like, preparing all day, and I have to cook it when no one can do it. I can cook or I don't have food.
Thank you for saying. I was waiting for you to do the all or nothing. It's either I can do all this or I am nothing at all. Or unless I'm able to do this, I'm not good at all. Unless I'm able to get 90% on all my grade 12s and grade 11 classes, I am really not good at all. I'm a failure. Yes.
I think a common one is like in all or nothing thinking is like, I don't get this uni,
Yes.
get a job, I won't get anything.
Yeah, if I don't get this uni, مش بس كده. Like, I'm a failure, or I'm not good, or then like you said, I'm not gonna get a good job, and so on. So you can tell that these automatic negative thoughts, when they are repetitively happening in someone's head, they can really lead to depression. Schemas are lenses. They get installed in the human in the first 6 years of their life. So all your schemas have been installed already, خلاص. Okay? Schemas are lenses through which we see the world, and we see relationships, and we see objects, and we see people, and we see life. And so they happen in interaction with other people. There are those who develop healthy schemas, and those lead to feeling liked by others, connected to others. Life is safe in general. And there are times where a child, because of their environment in the first 6 years in life, they develop unhealthy schemas called depressed schemas. And out of those schemas or lenses, they feel disliked by others, they feel doomed, they feel in danger all the time, they feel nothing is going to be good. And so you can imagine how important it is to look at the adolescent as a product of their upbringing, especially the first 6 years, 6 to 7 years in their life. So what are the general helping strategies if you're dealing with an adolescent who might be going through depression? First, you want to establish a sense of hope and positive expectations. So as a Christian, we talk about the hope we have in Jesus Christ. And we talk about the hope is not in ourselves, but is in Him. And the meaning found in serving Him, in being affiliated with Him. So if our talks and our discussions and our class topics connect the adolescent with who they are in terms of identity in Christ, that is a helping foundational step. While the helper needs to demonstrate warmth and empathy, very important. You all learned empathy, right? You demonstrated it in your triad, correct? Or no? Yeah. So while we all need that early on through reflective feelings, we also need to be more directive in helping. So yes, you can be empathetic with a teen, you can be reflective of their feelings, but we need to be more directive in helping, because adolescents have a reduced ability to take the initiative to seek help. You can imagine even adults have a stigma. Or do I go speak to a therapist? Or do I speak to a doctor? What's wrong with me? Am I crazy? What's going on? So again, imagine the adolescent. Do I tell my parents? Or how would I be viewed among my friends if they know that I see a psychiatrist? So they already have this reduced ability to take initiative to repair an issue. So we as servants, we must be a little bit more directive. I'm not saying you're going to tell all adolescents to go see a physician, but if you do see there is some sort of level of depression, do not shy away from telling the adolescent, have you talked to your doctor? Do not be shy to bring this to your coordinator and the priest responsible for the adolescent ministry you're serving in. Being a bystander is one of the most evil things we can do in this life. You know, to be able to see something and not do anything about it is evil. So be active and proactive when working with the adolescent. So in the case of more serious depression, you want to ensure that the adolescent does receive some medical help. And if the adolescent is suicidal, they will need professional help and they will need some sort of intervention and management to their suicidal ideation, which we'll talk about later today. So steps to help: first, assess the severity. In your own mind, you're not a physician, you're not a psychotherapist, but you can do some of this in your head. You can actually say, okay, a professional will use some of what you see here, these generalized contentment scale, but what are some questions you could ask an adolescent as part of assessing what's going on in terms of depression? What are some questions you could ask? Yeah. How often do you feel this way? Very good.
As an AI, I don't feel emotions like very good.
The AI, yeah. What else can you do? What other questions? Yes. Yeah, give them a scale on a 0 to 10. Where 10, you feel absolutely very depressed, very down, everything is ugly and bad. 0, no depression at all, you're joyful, you're happy. Where are you on the scale? And then when they give you a number, don't stop at the number. When they give you, I'm at a 9, what's the next question you could ask? Okay, but remember, I don't know if one of us said this or not, try not to ask the why question. Because a why question makes a person feel defensive. But you could ask the why question, there's a way to ask it. But instead of the why, ask the what question. So what does a 9 look like? When you say you're at a 9, can you describe that for me? Okay, what else can you ask to make an assessment of severity?
I don't know if this has been said, but like how long you've been.
Yeah, how long have you been feeling this way? So there's the how often, and there's how long have you been feeling this way? What else? Yeah, how is this affecting your daily life? Then the others might say, you know what, I don't know. I'm not sure how is it affecting. So what do you mean affect? Like, and then what will be your specific question to help them? Because like they don't know what do you mean affecting my daily life? I don't understand. What would you ask? Okay, so how is it affecting your schoolwork? How is it affecting your relationship with your siblings and your parents at home? How is it affecting your friendships? How is it affecting your screen time? Because there is a correlation between screen time and depression. There is a clinical correlation, there's a research correlation between the two. It's not the cause, but it's a correlation, they're connected. The more depressed the person is, the more likely they will have a higher screen time. And the more higher screen time they have, the more depressed they will report. There's a clear correlation in research between the two. Also, yeah. Okay, so now you're thinking positively, and I like that. Because now you're shifting the conversation into solutions. Can you tell me about your support? Can you tell me, who's helping you with this? That's very good. Identify negative and irrational thinking and challenge them. Some of what we just talked about. Keep in mind automatic negative thoughts, and listen to those in the conversation. Also, how is the symptom serving the system? This is such an important, amazing question to keep asking in your head. So an adolescent who is withdrawn all the time, sits by themselves in the room, is getting the attention of the entire family, who's now asking about her and checking on her and bringing her food up to her room and taking her out and connecting with her. then my question is, how's your depression, or how is the depression serving you? Do you get my question here, or not? Some people hang on to, not depression per se, but a depressive symptom because it's actually working for them, even if they don't know it. Like they're not consciously, they're not malicious about it. So they haven't had the attention of their parents. They haven't had the care of their parents. But now that they're withdrawn, mom is asking about them, tita is asking, baba is asking, people are taking them out. And unconsciously, they find that when they're withdrawn, they're calling on something that they need, which is the attention of the parent. So they hang on to that unconsciously or consciously, but most of the time unconsciously, not willingly. Provide community support as well. So that's assess, identify, know how the symptom is serving the system, and provide community support. You want to also encourage physical activity. So going to the gym, walking, running, jogging, identify recruitments to depression. What recruits you to depression? Avoid the terms "you are depressed" or you are a depressed person. I told you this, I think, last time. The problem means what? When it comes to visit you, what does the depression do? Therefore, now I've separated you from the depression. You're not one and the same anymore. So what recruits you to depression? What does that question imply? If you were to ask an adolescent, so what brings depression closer to you? Or what brings you closer to depression? What does it imply?
Identifying root cause.
So we're gonna identify root causes. We're gonna ask about how depression kind of increases or decreases, yes. But my question is a little bit different. What does it imply to ask the question, how does depression come close to you and how does it go away from you? What is it implying?
Like, it doesn't make it seem that depression is native in any person.
Okay.
It's like something that almost as if it's like an event that can occur with someone, but it's not, you're not identifying the person with depression.
That's right. That's one of the implication. The other implication, if you haven't, yes. It is not a constant matter because people who are depressed, they feel like this is what they're always in. But when you actually probe further, you find no, there are times where they're not that depressed. How come? Which means the intensity of up and down, that means that depression is not a permanent matter, even though they think it's a permanent matter. The depression, we spoke about that. Assess and manage suicidal ideation, very important. We'll talk about this later. Recommending, so when to refer, because obviously as servants, we're not therapists, we're not psychiatrists. So we have to note that there is an involvement of a professional who would be needed. And so how do I know when there are physical symptoms? That is usually an indication that they need to see a professional. So what could be some physical symptoms or signs of depression that the person would need to see a doctor for? Yeah.
Weight loss.
Yeah, they're now losing weight. Yeah. Unhealthy weight loss. What else? So yeah, they could be cutting, for example. What else?
If they're relying on substances to make them.
If they begin to rely on substance, yes. If symptoms are also worsening, as you see, there's suicidal ideation that are not able to confine. And becoming difficult. These suicidal ideation are becoming difficult and harder to manage despite counseling or despite speaking to someone. There are people who have constant headaches, constant stomach ache, right? They feel malaised and tired and can't do much for a prolonged period of time. They are sleeping extra for a while. We're not talking about your youth in the summer who wants to wake up at 3 p.m. Okay? But we're talking about someone who's doing that for a while, despite the fact that there are no reasons why they could do that or should do that. Any question on depression? Anything that you wonder you might encounter with the youth about this? Yes.
It's one of those automatic negative thoughts. Like it seems very like natural, that like it's very. Yeah, and if it seems very natural, like how would you go on about assessing one of those automatic thoughts? Because to them it seems very their first step if they're natural.
Yeah, so to them, obviously, it feels almost the normal way of thinking, but you are now another reference to them. So then you can help them contrast and say, so if you do not get all your applications, like uni applications, if you don't get all your offers, that means you're not going to have a good future. You just even ask it like this. On one hand, you seem to be getting 90s in your courses, and on the other hand, you believe that if you don't get all acceptances, you're not a good student. Can you help me put the two together? So this is called soft confrontation. But sometimes it's just enough to listen and say, oh, okay, so and mirror it. Listen and mirror. You don't have to do anything. Listen and mirror. Like this, you say, so help me understand this act, stupid. Help me understand. I just really don't get this. Can you help me understand this? Like you think that if you don't get all your university acceptances, that means to you that you will never mount to anything good in the future? And I say, yeah. Say, can you explain that to me? So in a way, you're confronting without confronting. You're just mirroring. You're just putting it in front of them. And someone says, well, it's not like I'm not going to be good at all. So here you go. Say, okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that you don't believe if you don't get all acceptances, that you actually will not amount to anything. But the thought comes to you that tricks you in thinking unless you get all, you are nothing at all. So that's how you, in conversation, you can mirror it, you can challenge it with a soft confrontation, and you can put it back before them in the format of all or nothing. Anxiety. Anxiety. So many definitions of anxiety. This is the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual that is used by psychiatrists, psychologists, and referred to by psychotherapists for references of mental health disorders. Defines anxiety as worry, fear, stress, concern, and there's obviously the DSM-5. Let's have a look at this one. You may want to take some points down or jot down some keywords or key facts about anxiety. Okay. So let's just go over anxiety briefly. So causes of anxiety, again, you'll find there is an overlap between anxiety and depression. They call them sisters or brothers. They coexist. So when a person is depressed, usually they're also anxious. When they're anxious, they usually have some level of depression. They coexist. So negative self-talk, again, insecurity. Anxiety is about the future. It's about uncertainty in the future or uncertainty in one's life. It has to do with that which has not happened yet. Okay, so it's inconsistencies in life can cause anxiety because, especially with children, when life is not predictable, they begin to learn very quickly that life is unsafe. They don't know what's coming next. And you can see that obviously in adolescent life. When there is legalistic criticism, everything has to happen in a very critical way and legalistically. Why you didn't do this? Why you didn't do that? Why you forgot to turn off the light? Why you didn't turn off, why didn't you throw the garbage properly? It's a critical legalistic system makes the person anxious because they don't know when they'll be reprimanded next, when they will be held accountable next. In fact, the answer is every time. I'm just waiting for it and I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know when my parents are going to yell at me because they do yell at me and I know they will yell at me. It's going to happen, but I don't know when. So they live in this anxious state. Permissiveness. So when parents think, you know what, I'm a liberal parent, I allow my children to do whatever they want to do, that actually causes anxiety in kids because children need to have and learn, boundaries and parameters. So parents who are very permissive, everything is okay, everything goes, actually is one of the causes of anxiety in children and in adolescents. Perfectionism, that's another one where everything is expected to be at a standard that is unattainable. It could be neurological, it could be physical disorders, sense of meaninglessness, and so on. So how to help counseling a person who is anxious has its own challenges and may not be easy. In fact, they say that anxiety is like a cold. you catch a cold, you can also catch anxiety. So if you were to go out and spend some time with an anxious adolescent, you as a servant, if you're not careful, you can go home and your family is going to notice you're anxious. It's one of those things, you catch anxiety. And therefore, at home, children catch anxiety from home, from their parents. And sometimes when the kid is very anxious, the parent can become anxious, the parent who's not usually anxious. Another thing they've noticed about anxiety is it's transgenerational. Means, if you go back, you'll notice that grandma was anxious, mom is anxious, I'm anxious. Grandfather was anxious, my mom was anxious, his daughter, or my dad was his son, and I'm anxious. They call it's one of those transgenerational quote unquote issues. They get inherited, they get passed on. Until somebody says enough is enough, I need to do something about this, and I'm not going to pass it on to my kids. So the key is to learn how to balance stress to ensure overall well-being, because stress exists and no one can assume that stress is going to cease to exist. So there are proper assessments. Again, you look at severity. Professionals will go through scales. You just need to understand that there are ways you can ask to assess about anxiety. Here again, I ask you, what would you ask a youth about anxiety in order to assess the severity? What would you ask? Same questions. So give me an example. Good. How anxious are you on a scale of 0 to 10? Okay. And then you're not going to stop at the number. Okay.
What sort of anxious thoughts?
Yeah. What sort of anxious thoughts? Tell me about the thoughts that cause you to be stressed and anxious. What else?
How often?
How often? How long have you been? Is anyone helping? So we're looking at resources again. Yes. Yes. How is it debilitating in any way? How is it impacting your day-to-day life? And obviously you want to ask if there has been a physician's examination at any point, and how do you help them face their anxiety? In doing so, you want to avoid pat answers. So your problem is normal. All you have to do is pray and trust God more, and everything will be all right. Why is that a pat answer? Aren't we people of faith? Don't we believe that when we pray, things change? Imagine a person comes to you and says, I have this pain on the right side, a lower side over here, and it's sharp. And when I push, it really hurts even more. You say, Habibi, go to your room, close your door, and pray. And someone else who's listening to you and say, okay, and when their appendix bursts, or if they die, pray about it. Sometimes we have this imaginative ideologies that, we can normalize things that should not be normalized. This is okay. Everything is normal. Through prayer, things are done. Yeah, through prayers, maybe for certain people, they have the gift of healing through prayer and they can pray for you and you'll be healed instantly. Sure, that's a gift. But for the rest of us, as we pray, we also have to do what we need to do that God has given us to do, such as go to a physician or go to the emergency and act on it. So avoid pat answers. What do you think about the following statement? Anxiety is a sign of spiritual and psychological weakness. What do you think and why? But the heartburning one, it's physical, whereas anxiety, I think, is spiritual, right? Anxiety is spiritual, because if you actually believe that Jesus is in control of your life, you would not be anxious.
I don't know, like, I wouldn't, someone who's like limited to thinking, like, in a way that's not anxious is like, it's like the same as someone who's already spoken or they have a bodily defect. It's like a mental illness, is the same as physical illness, like, it's not a matter of your spiritual level, it's a matter of like healing.
So I agree with you, and I want to take it one step further, is that when sin entered into the world, it corrupted all of the human person. That includes physically, because they have a body, flesh, included their mind psychologically, and included their spiritual life, their spirits. Okay, but sometimes you would hear from people say, if you were a woman of faith or a man of faith, you would not be anxious. How do you feel about that? And you can agree to it, and I'm okay if you agree with it. I'll discuss it with you. But if you disagree with it, also I would like to hear it.
I feel like and I would someone to talk about my anxiety and the sentence, I would no longer talk to them.
Right? Because why? Why? What's going on when someone says that?
We'd be invalidated, whatever.
Right. So whatever they're going through, you're completely invalidated, and you're shutting the door. It's like, okay, so what do I do with this? I'm a person of no faith. What do I do? Well, I need to gain more faith. Well, what do I do? I need to pray some more. Well, can I bring my anxiety into the prayer? Can I become anxious as I'm praying? Yes. There's something else going on than the spiritual aspect. There could be a spiritual aspect to it, but there's a psychological aspect to it as well.
This was like more on like the spiritual side. Like ideally, that sentence would make sense, but where like as you were saying, we're all humans and we all fall under weakness. But it doesn't like make sense that we're always gonna be perfect and like completely gonna believe in like God's plan the entire time that we're just not gonna have a single bit of anxiety.
Right. And it's not helpful. You can tell them, okay, I want to help you pray. Let's pray together. Can we pray together? And after prayer, they feel better. They feel better. But as soon as you say, I feel, you're talking about the psychological realm. So, Abuna, I've been missing feeling connected to God in prayer. Yeah, let's check your psychology. Because a lot of people say, but if I don't feel the presence of God, maybe I'm spiritually not growing. No, it's not the spiritual aspect. There is another aspect called psychological. And that's why when you sit with your Abuna and say, I don't feel, Abuna says, don't follow your feeling. That's not the gadget of your spiritual life. Someone might feel so connected with God, but they are so wrong in their way of living. Right? So there is a psychological component that we must pay attention to. We must recognize, what else is going on in the mind of that adolescent, and also offer spiritual support. Do the two of them. But if you were to say that's because you're spiritually immature, that's not going to help anyone. Nor is it the truth either. Because who got anxious in the Bible? Moses was anxious. Where are we from Moses? Okay, who else got anxious? Who actually got depressed? Elijah. And Elijah was anxious, actually. He started running for his life. Elijah, the one who brought fire from heaven down to take the sacrifice. Elijah, who called the heaven to stop raining for 3 years and did listen to him. Elijah became anxious. But here is the one that's going to completely throw you away. Who got depressed? The Bible says that he was depressed. Jesus. Where? In Gethsemane, when he saw the chalice and the sins of the world and the misery of the world, which he knew, but as a human, who also now have a psychology. Well, Jesus' humanity lacked psychology. Well, he was not perfectly human. The Bible says that he became depressed. That's a human response to something. Okay? So recognize the strengths of anxiety. Is there such a thing as a good anxiety? I guess if you have a bit of anxiety before a test, it will make you what? Study. You have a bit of anxiety before an interview, you're gonna prep. You have a bit of an anxiety before taking communion, you go into repent. And not all anxieties are bad, but if it's a severe anxiety or moderate, like the deeper anxieties, of course, but we're not talking anxiety, we're talking about stress. Recognize anxiety as an agent of growth. So we talked about some of these where you can grow because you feel stressed a little bit. Whereas you also can neutralize some of the anxiety. So you can help them by slowing down, by softening your voice, by generalizing the experience, but without taking the unique experience of the youth away from them. So when a youth says, I'm very anxious because my parents are separating and I don't know what to do. It's a good time to say, wow, this must be hard. I can imagine if your parents are not staying together, that you're going to be stressed not knowing if what you know as family is going to continue to be family or not. What am I doing here? I'm normalizing it. Isn't it normal? Isn't it normal for a youth to feel anxious because the parents are talking divorce? Of course it's normal. So I'm normalizing it and say, I know some people who may have gone through this and they also told me that they are very anxious. You are generalizing without taking the experience away from them. Right? And you instill hope. Say, but you're here. We're working through this. You talk to me. I'm going to be here for you. Let's work through this. Yeah.
Say you're not taking the experience away.
So when a youth comes and says, I am so anxious about my test. Anxious, anxious. We're all anxious. In this way, I have generalized it. We're all anxious. Therefore, why are you? Like, why are you so unique? So you have to do it in such a way that say, you know what, I've had some people really go through this. So there's empathy. And it's been difficult. So I guess, I'm sure you're experiencing it in a specific way. And yet there is a common part where other people also have experienced this. And maybe we can learn something. So it depends on the context and how you place it. You want to identify negative thinking. Again, you want to practice positive self-talk, and one of the best ways to practice positive self-talk is to change the statements that are or the thoughts that are going into your head. So instead of saying, I'll never really mount to anything, or I'll never really do better in my school. You can say, I'm upset now because I've not done well on this exam, but things will get better soon. So teach the youth to butt the negatives. Actually, I heard one time a speaker, probably you saw this in social media. He's a Christian servant in one of the churches, and they made a meme out of him because he says, I want to butt I want you to be in the big butt, he said. So it's a funny thing, but so I bring it here so you can remember, but the negative things. So instead of saying, some people go like this, like, I'm a good person, but I'm not doing well, versus I'm not doing well, but I am a good person. What's the difference between the two statements? They have the exact same words, but the sequence is different. Whatever comes after the but is usually what the brain is listening to. Okay? So, you know what, I didn't do well on this test, but you know what, I think I can study and do better. So your brain is saying with what, I'm more hopeful, versus I usually do well, but this time I really did such a bad, thing I did. So your brain is saying with such a bad thing. So be careful, even help them to reorganize their thoughts. You can also teach them how to relax, how to breathe in and out. Sometimes when you're sitting with an adolescent, they may start to hyperventilate. They may start to have a panic attack with you. So learn very quickly. You say, okay, you know what? This feels like it's hard. I want you to put your hand on your chest. And I want you to take a deep breath in. I want you to feel your chest, rising. And I want you to breathe out. Let's try it. Can we do this together? Let's try this together. And you do it with them, because that's a way of grounding them. By putting their hands on their chest, if you were to do this right now, you're going to feel something. You know, feel something on your chest. You feel it. Your mind is recognizing it. And then take a deep breath. Feel your belly rising, and then out again. And do it a few times, a few minutes. They actually can be calmed down, and you can contain that. Help the adolescent become more self-aware. Again, remember what I said about being recruited into depression? Also the same thing about anxiety. What makes anxiety come visit you more? What makes anxiety go away? And help them imagine anxiety as an unwanted guest. So how do you know that this unwanted guest is coming closer to your home? And what can you do in order to make sure they don't enter the house? And so on. So this is called narrative type of therapy. And you can explore spiritual issues. There is a very nice book called Christian Counseling by Gary Collins. If you're ever interested in that book, it's a very valuable book. It's a thick book. It's an encyclopedia, but it has topics inside. And he speaks about the 5 actions to overcome anxiety: rejoicing, forbearing, praying, thinking, and acting. It says rejoicing means you have to remember God's promises to you and be joyful in that. You have to feel forbearing, which means it's okay if I feel a bit anxious, but I can do it. You know, we sometimes we want to teach people not to ever be anxious, not to ever feel depressed. No, it's not in that. It's when you get visited by anxiety or when you get visited by depression, how can you forbear that? How can you endure that? This is important. How can you pray about that? And how can you think? So changing the mindset to become more positive rather than negative. And how can you act according to God's way that will be more closer to your value, rather than react and go to substance, for example, or go to maladaptive behaviors or hanging around the wrong crowd, just so that you can get some band-aid help to feel less stress. Obviously, if you were to take marijuana, you're gonna be stressed. I'm telling you, not out of experience, but I'm just telling you, knowing what marijuana does. If you were to smoke a marijuana, you will calm down. But then what's gonna happen after you're done? Stress is up again. Now you need more. And that's called maladaptive behavior. It doesn't change the cycle, doesn't change the anxiety, it only band-aids it, which doesn't work on the long run. And when to refer again, if there are physical symptoms severe enough to warrant medication, and if over time the adolescent still feels more out of control with increased stress and anxiety, or despite going to see someone or talking to their parents, and it's not working. Okay. Let me close by it is 5 o'clock. But let me just quickly go over this, and you have access to it later on. Suicide ideation and prevention. Everyone is on the spectrum of suicide. Okay. Which means at any one point, you may hear someone say, or even feel, I wish I'm not here. I wish I did not exist. Or I wish my life ended. Or I wish, but they're not talking about life ending. Suicide is not about ending one's life. What is it about? What do you think? Running away from what? Yes, from what? What is that the person wants to end? Not life. Huh? Suffering, pain, is about ending pain. The pain is unbearable, actually, for those who have the suicidal ideation. And so suicidal ideation alone may not indicate that a person is acutely suicidal. They may get the thoughts, but they may not be acutely suicidal. And like I said, suicide is not about death, it is about stopping the pain. This is why most youth and adults, they send out SOS signals before making a lethal suicide attempt. So what I'm telling you here is that the youth and the adolescent will send out signals when they have these suicidal ideation, and we as adolescent ministers must be trained to pick on those signals. What do you think some of these signals could be? Yes, depression, anxiety, getting severe, more and more severe, yes. What else?
I like disinterest in things they're interested in.
Withdrawal, disinterest from things. These are signals. Bursting out in cry, like crying in like in bursts and outbursts. That's another one. Someone who tells you, sends you messages of hopelessness. Like, I don't think anything is going to change. Nothing is good. Negative, just the negative projection on life is a signal. 80% of youth do not die in their first attempt. And talking to a person about suicide will not make them try it. If you were to ask an adolescent, then you're suspecting they're thinking about suicide. You say, are you thinking of killing yourself? Some people don't want to ask that question because they think if they were to ask that question, they will seed the idea. It's not true. You will never seed the idea of killing oneself by saying and asking. In fact, most youth who have been researched, they say the person, when they said that to me, I was so relieved that I can actually talk about this. So remove that idea from your head that you can seed the idea of killing. No, you cannot seed it this way. So people who threaten to commit suicide, they mean what they say. So people say, hey, she always says I'm going to kill myself and she hasn't done it yet. So it's just acting. Some adolescents, are pros. That's true. They're pros to make their parents flip upside down when they say this. But I'm telling you that those adolescents who do it to manipulate their parents, they actually think about suicide. So even though they're manipulating their parents and their parents don't know what to do, the adolescent is actually thinking. He or she may not do it, but they have the thoughts. So people who attempt suicide do not want to die, but they want to end their pain. And in almost every case, a person considering suicide, if they were to be given another way to end the pain, they will take it over killing themselves. A non-lethal attempt is not just looking for attention. An attempt is a cry for help. And about 80% of lethal suicides follow an earlier attempt. So you remember here I said 80% of youth do not die in their first attempt. You see this one here? About 80% of lethal suicides follow an earlier attempt. So that means that if someone has tried once, the risk of succeeding the next time is now what? Much higher. Ignoring painful feelings will not make them go away. So saying to someone, bottle stuff up versus learning to express these emotions is very important. So a yes to a CPR assessment means this person is at a high risk or risk alert. CPR, current suicide plan. Do you have a plan to kill yourself? So no, I don't. Okay, good. Or yes, I've had these pills. I know that my mom takes these antidepressants. My dad takes these painkillers. And I read specifically and I asked ChatGPT, if I were to take this, will it kill me? And I found the answer. Now, this is not someone who's just having an idea. This is someone who has a plan or a plan forming. Pain. Do you have pain that at times feels unbearable? Is the answer yes? Then you have a higher risk. Do you feel you have few, if any, resources? Yes, I don't have any resources. So a yes to any of the CPR acronym here means the person's risk is at higher level. Did you try suicide before? A yes to that is a higher risk. Are you receiving or have you received mental health care? Are you depressed? Do you take any depressive pills, antidepressant pills? Or do you have any history of suicidal attempts in the family? And a yes to these increases the risk of the adolescent. So we want to intervene and manage. I'll give you a very simple way to do that. One is to connect with the youth first. Second is to understand the suicidal thoughts. And third is to assist them in overcoming. So it's called the 3-stage model: connecting, a sense of acceptance. Tell me, you seem to be going through a difficult time. You employ empathy, reflecting of feelings, reflecting of thoughts. You connect with the youth. What's going on? This seems to be hard. What? Tell me a little bit more. How often do you get these thoughts? What have you read about this? What are you thinking? And so on. What do your parents think about that? Oh, I don't know. Okay, well, I'm glad we're talking, you and I. That's good. So explore signs that suicide is connected to current life events. What's leading you to think about suicide? Well, my friends, I don't have good friends, and every time I go to school, I feel very lonely. So you begin to understand and then ask clearly, are you thinking of suicide, or are you thinking to kill yourself? Don't even say, are you thinking of hurting yourself? Because hurt could be what? Could be anything but suicide. Could be like punching myself in the face, could be like cutting myself. So you have to be clear. If you suspect there could be signs of suicide and you're monitoring it and asking it in that conversation, it seems like maybe this is like something that I need to ask about. Ask and show you are ready and able to help prevent. Say, okay, I'm glad you opened up. I'm glad don't be anxious, but just relax. Let's talk about this. I'm glad you opened up about this. And then you begin the second stage of understanding. You're understanding basically reasons of dying and reasons of living. Very often I ask the person who comes to me, says, well, so tell me, what's leading you to wanna, think about killing yourself? And they tell me, say, okay, well, it's interesting, but you're still alive. Can you tell me what's keeping you alive? And they say, well, I don't want to go to hell. You'll hear that from almost every Christian youth. And I can imagine how my dad will be and my mom sad about the fact that I killed myself. And also I feel like someone will say, I'm a chicken, Abuna, I'll never do it. I'm a chicken. I don't think I'll ever do it. Say, oh God, you're a chicken. That's good. But I need to hear it, right? So I'm understanding what's causing the narrative of dying, but I'm also exploring what's actually leading to the narrative of life. And then I begin to establish a life-side foundation. I increase the living narrative. And I do that by asking questions. So even though you get these ideas of hurting yourself, and it's really not about dying, it's about stopping the pain, but yet you're still alive because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When next time you get these thoughts, contracting now, assisting, what will you do? And help them to reach the following. If I get these thoughts, I'm going to challenge them. I'm going to get up and do something else. I'm going to go talk to a friend. I'm going to talk to my parents. I'm going to remember that I don't want to go to hell, and I don't want to put that sadness in the heart of my parents and my friends. And I don't want to miss on the stuff that I really enjoy in life either. And I will remind myself that life is a gift from God. You list everything that speaks of life. And you tell them, so when the thought comes, will you do that? Say, I will do that. Okay. You don't stop there. You go the next level. And if you did all of this and it worked, great. But if you did all of this and the thoughts of suicide were much harder on you, what are you going to do next? And you want to contract with them, then they'll actually seek help. So what are they going to see? Say, okay, I'll call you. Say, yes, but I may not answer you, or I may not be available, or I may not be this and that. So if you call me and I don't answer you, what else will you do? Well, I'll call my friend so-and-so, my servant so-and-so. I'll call you as a servant. I'm talking if I'm a Abuna, if you talking to them, but if you're the servant, you say, okay, if you don't reach me, who else will you talk to? Well, I'll call my parents. And if you don't reach them, I'll call a friend. And if I don't reach them, who else you call? You want to get a very important number on their list of calling. And that number is 911. It's very important. So you don't reach any of those people, then you must call 911 and tell them, I'm having suicidal thoughts, I need help. Will you do that? I don't know about 911. oh, no, I'm not sure, dear servant, if I can call 911. Say, okay, let's go through this again. If you get the suicidal thoughts, what are you gonna do? Well, I'm gonna remember hell. I'm going to remember my parents and the way my mom is gonna look at my dad over my tomb, crying because I committed suicide. I'm gonna remember this and say, don't want that. I'm gonna think of a friend. I'm gonna do this, and then if nothing of this works, I'm gonna call you. But if you don't answer me, I'm gonna call so and so. And if they don't answer me, I say you're gonna call 911. But I don't want to call them. Let's try this again. If you get this, you must get them to contract to call 911 because everything else could fail. But 911, at least we know, unless they put you on hold, which is a different story, that someone is going to actually help you. Now, if 911 puts you on hold, yallah, of course not. Of course not. But if 911 doesn't work, there is another number called mobile crisis. Mobile crisis. Mobile crisis. This mobile crisis of Peel. I want you to look this one up. Mobile crisis of Peel. Have these numbers ready and with you all the time. Make sure to enter the numbers. They don't need to put 911 on the phone, but you can get them to put the mobile crisis of Peel. And if they're in Halton, see there's mobile crisis of Halton. If you're in Calgary, see there's mobile crisis in Calgary, and so on and so forth. Just make sure, or the distress center. Now, the system fails people, but I've put enough barriers to actually a lethal suicide that the likelihood of it happening is very minimal, if anything. Can you work? Can you manage suicide? Yes. Can you prevent suicide? To some degree, yes. Can you completely stop or prevent someone from committing suicide? No. Because if they want to, كل الكلام ده هيترمى away. But at least you've helped them move and shift in the way they think. And obviously you want to connect them to support systems, to a community, to service, and so on and so forth. But you've got to have that safety pin. Yes.
Or about like agreeing to call it.
Sure. Yeah, but they might lie and they're not really serious. And you can tell. And if you cannot tell if they're serious or like you as well, you have to have the demeanor of seriousness, not of anxiety, but seriousness. See, this is important. This is important because you said, they were the ones who said, I cannot imagine the way my parents were. You know, I am really afraid of hell. I don't want hell. I don't want to end up now pain here and pain there. Like, what's the point? Right? And so, okay, but you've got to be able to call 911 if you reach a point where absolutely you cannot overcome the thoughts and they're going higher and higher and higher, even though you tried all this at the time. So, by the way, calling 911, these are people who are going to come help you. They're not going to hurt you in any way. They're going to take you to the doctor in the hospital, do proper assessments, help you see what they can do for you. And they will do such a great thing to prevent you from killing yourself. And maybe then you will find a better way to handle the pain. So you can talk about it more, right? But like I said, if someone, and here's the thing, if someone is determined to kill themselves, determined, they will be laughing the night before, they will be enjoying their time. It's as if depression is completely gone, right? Because you know what? And they're not anxious because now they settled on what to do. And most likely you will hear about them dying by morning. And you have no way of telling. But we're talking about the rare extreme circumstances, right? Cases. But for the majority, you can actually help prevent suicide. Yeah. Yes and yes.
Why do we, like, maybe this is dumb, but why do we call 911 before, like, mobile crisis? Like, they're so uncomfortable.
Yes, because mobile crisis, they have the tendency not to answer. That's, yeah. Like I've tried mobile crisis appeal for a client before, and there's no answer. But not to say they didn't get better, or maybe this was a COVID thing. Because during COVID, you could even call 911 and get help 2 hours later. No, it has happened. So they have the both numbers. Whoever mobile crisis is mobile, like they can come to you. But 911, they'll come to you anyways, and they're usually much faster. But let's say you feel like you don't want to call 911, you just want a therapist to come and talk to you, mobile crisis can offer that. Yes.
What if the kids don't want
Yeah, they're distress line, but the thing about those is they're anonymous. Yeah, their service is not to come. And they're anonymous. You can speak all you want to speak, but they can't tell who you are and where you're at, and they don't have a mandate to do anything beyond that.
like a youth comes to one of us and they're like none of their they don't have a reason to live. It's like when you ask them like
Yes.
reason,
Yes.
and they don't have reasons to live. Is it wrong to approach them in a way to like use the reasons of like Hal and their family to almost
You could prompt, yeah, you can prompt. You can say, so I'm just wondering, because we're both Christians and we come to church, and it's just a wondering, my mind goes to, have you considered, that suicide and doing that can lead a person to hell? See how I said it? But I'm gonna tell you this, if a person doesn't have reasons to live, you didn't even go through point two, you say, connect, understand, and contract, right? And those were the three. You come to understand, and they have no reason to live, and they have a plan. What are you gonna do on Friday night? Habibi, nice to see you. Yalla, good night. We'll see you next Friday. Never. If you reach a point where the person is not able to genuinely contract with you, you take that person to Abuna, you take that person to their parents. Yani, and this is a crisis now. Now you reach a point where you're not able to, and a person may say, okay, khalas, I will contract, I will do the don't worry, but they're not serious. Your assessment of it is they're not serious. If you have in doubt, I've had in the past a servant take one of the kids from here to Credit Valley. Call the parents, call me, call the parents, and say we have an issue. So and so is on the verge of doing something. They have a means to do it, and they're not in the state that they're able to contain this. Immediately, I call the parents, say, parents, your child is going through a very distressful situation. Oh, they always say this. They say, I know, but you know what? I don't want to risk it, and I don't think you want to risk it either. So let's take them to the hospital and let's see if they can do an assessment. And we took that person to the hospital. And they stayed for 2-3 days in the hospital until they were able to work through things. And we prevented suicide. We have another case where we couldn't prevent suicide and it happened. Right? So we have this, we have that. But we have more of the prevention than we have of the actual suicide. And suicide, maybe 2 or 3 in several churches. Yeah, I mean, in all the last 35 years or so that I remember. But prevention, oh, lots of prevention, thank God. Yes and yes.
how do you bring out or like know what you're in a state of like crisis where you I feel like is it often that you would open up about that or like
No, you're assessing like from what I just said, they're not able to, they have a plan. So CPR, remember CPR? So all your risk assessments, you will have access to this. All the risk assessments is high, including a plan. A plan is a critical piece. Okay, and they're not able to contract with you. They're not able to say, okay, I will do that. I don't want suicide. I want to push it away as much as I can. I'm so glad we talked. And they're not able to do that. Then you know all this is pointing to what? You have a crisis on your hand.
what if they're saying no I don't not thinking about whatever but
So you probe, but like I told you, if a person is determined to commit suicide, you cannot stop it. But you may, in conversation, get them to think differently, and in that way you can prevent it. Right? But you can ask things like, so you have a knife at home? Everybody has a knife at home. So what are you thinking? Tell me. They can imagine whatever they want to imagine and say, so will you do that? Will you actually, when you think you have a plan? When are you thinking of executing this plan? I say, well, I'm so down. I think I'm so, like, again, remember, people do not want to end their life. They want to end the pain, but they see ending life as ending the pain. Now you can help them separate the two. That's why you're taking this type of instruction and information that if, let's say, you were not part of this YMCP, you would not have heard of. You would not have learned it, right? And that's why we say this is equipping you differently than someone who serves without this type of training. So now you are separating the story between the story of dying and the story of ending the pain, and trying to find ways to help the person end the pain but not the life. Okay, glory be to God forever and ever. Amen. You have completed the first course. Isn't that amazing? Give yourselves a big hand. Now, wonderful. All you have to do is make sure you read the books. And you have until the deadline to read the books. We can extend that by 1 week because we were late to giving you the book by 1 week. So instead of November 30th, it will be December 7th. Okay, you have an extra week, finish the books and send myself an email, clear email, it's in the syllabus, and we will upload all so all the recording already uploaded. What we will upload for you to have access to will be the PowerPoints, the cases, and all that. And if you are an online student or you were online even one time, you must do a post responding that these are already online in Moodle, so you must be able to do a post. If you have a question, ask Mimi. She's responsible for the online portion, her and the TAs that work with her. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation. Deliver us from the evil one. Christ Jesus our Lord. Thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory forever and ever. Amen. Before I send you and go in peace and drive safely, obviously, to wherever you're headed, I want to remind you that next week is off, correct, Ayman? Next week is off. You can recuperate, you can catch up on the readings. The week after is when we start. So next week is going to be the 16th. So the 23rd. The 23rd, we're starting the next course, which will be with Tamer Camel. And this one is on the design and of curriculum and activity design. Such an interesting course. You're going to love it. Love it, love it, love it. If you love the first course, you're going to love the next one, inshallah. Okay, please do give us feedback. There will be a feedback sent, for this course. You cannot graduate from this class, from YMCP, without having received your feedback. In other words, it's easy, but it's important. That's how we improve for the years to come. Okay? Thank you very much and have a good night.
feedback ايه يا ابو الشيخ ثانيه خلينا نتكلم مع الراجل ده الاول